Naledi had only been home in Kampala for 2 hours when everything fell apart. She had come back from college hoping for a quiet weekend, home-cooked food, a little rest, maybe even a good laugh with her older brother Tariq. But the peaceful visit she imagined shattered the moment Kessia, Tariq's wife, marched into the living room with crossed arms and a dramatic sigh. "She disrespected me," Kessia declared loudly, pointing at Naledi like she was some criminal. "Your sister talked to me as if I'm nothing in this house." Naledi blinked in confusion. All she had said earlier was, "Oh, I didn't hear you," when Kessia called her from the kitchen. That was it. No attitude, no fight, nothing. Before she could even explain, Tariq slammed his hand against the table. His voice echoed through the whole house. "You're grounded until you apologize." Naledi froze. Grounded. At 19. She stared at him, waiting for him to laugh, to admit he was joking. But Tariq's face stayed hard, his eyes burning with blind loyalty toward his wife. "Tariq, what did I do?" Naledi whispered, her voice shaking. "I didn't disrespect anyone." But he didn't want to hear her. He didn't even look at her. Kessia stood behind him with a smug little smile, like she had won something. In that moment, Naledi felt something inside her crack, that familiar old pain of never being believed, never being defended, never being treated like family. And as she stood there, her backpack still on her shoulder, she wondered how a simple visit home had turned into a punishment she didn't deserve, and a storm she never saw coming. Naledi sat on the edge of her bed, still shaken from Tariq's outburst, when she noticed her scholarship letter on the floor, bent, smudged, and torn at the corner. Her heart dropped. This letter was her pride, her proof that all her late-night studying had been worth it. She picked it up gently, running her fingers over the damage, confused. It had been perfect when she left it on the table that morning. A soft knock came at the door. Kessia peeked inside, pretending to look innocent. "Oh, you found it," she said lightly. "It fell." But there was something off, her voice, her eyes, the way she refused to step inside. Naledi asked quietly, Did you do something to my letter?" Kessia rolled her eyes. "I didn't know it was important, okay? I spilled tea on it by accident, and when I tried to dry it, it ripped a little. But instead of thanking me for trying, you gave me attitude." Naledi was stunned. "I didn't even know you touched it. How could I give you attitude?" But Kessia wasn't done. She lifted her chin, her voice getting louder so Tariq could hear from the hallway. "That's what I mean, Tariq. Look at how she talks to me. So rude, so disrespectful. She even said I don't belong in this house." Naledi's mouth fell open. She had never said anything like that, not even close. Panic and frustration rushed through her as she shook her head. "Tariq, I swear I didn't." But Tariq didn't even wait. He stepped inside, placing a protective hand around Kessia's shoulders like she was some fragile glass. "Enough, Naledi. My wife has no reason to lie." Those words hit her like a slap. No reason to lie. Kessia had every reason. She was embarrassed, caught messing with something important, and instead of admitting it, she twisted the story to save herself. And Tariq believed her instantly, without even looking at the truth in Naledi's hands. Naledi felt the room spin. Her letter, her future, ruined by someone who saw her as nothing. And the person who should have defended her didn't even give her a chance. In that moment, something dark and heavy settled in her chest. She realized this lie wasn't just a small fight. This was the spark, the beginning of everything that was about to explode. And the worst part, her own brother had chosen someone else's lie over her truth. As Naledi stood there, clutching her ruined scholarship letter, Tariq's anger still echoing in her ears, a familiar old ache rose in her chest. It wasn't a new feeling, it was something she had carried since childhood. The kind of pain that never really leaves you, just waits quietly until someone wakes it up again. Her mind drifted back to Gulu, to the tiny 3-room home where her childhood lived. She remembered the narrow hallway that always smelled of maize flour, the creaky wooden beds, the single mosquito net she had to share with 2 cousins while Tariq got a room to himself. Even when they were kids, she was the one who had to understand, the one who was told, "You're older than your age, Naledi. Be patient." She remembered how Tariq always got the new clothes, the big pieces of chicken, the last slice of bread. Kessia, back when she was just the girl always hanging around their house, was treated like a queen. But Naledi, she was just extra. Extra mouth, extra responsibility, extra problem. Whenever something went wrong in that house, it was like everyone's eyes automatically turned to her. If a cup broke, Naledi did it. If someone forgot to lock the door, Naledi must have been careless. If anyone raised their voice, Naledi stopped being difficult. Even when she sat quietly in a corner, she was somehow still the trouble. She remembered one day clearly, the day she got top grades in her class. She ran home excited, holding her certificate like it was gold. Her mother smiled, but only softly. Tarek walked past her like it meant nothing. And Kessia, who was visiting, laughed and said, "Top student, maybe Gulu's standards are low." That was the first time Naledi learned that some people will see you as small no matter how big your dreams are. So when Tarek shouted, "You're grounded until you apologize," it wasn't just about that moment. It was every moment, every year. Every time she was blamed, ignored, or pushed aside, it was a reminder that she had never truly been chosen, never truly been valued. Standing in that Kampala living room felt exactly like standing in that old Gulu house. Invisible, unwanted, unheard. But this time, the pain didn't make her small. It made her quiet, made her think, and it made her realize something important. If family never chooses you, maybe you have to choose yourself. Naledi wiped her face with the back of her hand and started packing her bag. She wasn't going to stay one more night in a house where her voice meant nothing. As she folded her clothes, her hands kept shaking, from anger, from hurt, from everything she had buried for years. She opened drawers quickly, just trying to grab her things and get out. Then her hand stopped. At the very bottom of the drawer, under some old receipts and a broken charger, she saw a brown envelope with her father's handwriting on it. Her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't seen his handwriting in years. Not since he passed. Slowly, almost afraid to touch it, she pulled the envelope out. It felt old, heavy, important. She opened it carefully, unfolding a crisp document inside. And when her eyes landed on the first line, her heart started pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. Property deed, Jinja district. Her father's name was there. Her name was there. Not Tarek's. Hers. She read it again just to be sure. Her father had signed a document leaving a plot of land in Jinja directly to her. Naledi felt her hands tremble, her chest tightening with shock and something she hadn't felt in a long time. Validation. Her father had chosen her. Not Tarek. Not Kessia. A memory flashed. Her father sitting with her under the mango tree in Gulu, saying softly, "You're stronger than you know, my girl. One day, this world will open for you." At the time, she didn't understand. Now she did. Naledi grabbed her phone and quickly searched the area mentioned in the document. Her eyes widened. That land, the one she had inherited, was now part of a massive new development project. Hotels, tech companies, highways. Everything was being built there. The value? Over $1.3 million. Naledi's knees almost gave out. She sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the deed to her chest. Suddenly everything clicked. Tarek's sudden anger, Kessia's fake story, the pressure, the yelling, the demand for an apology. It wasn't random. It wasn't about respect. They knew. They knew about the land. They knew she owned it. And they wanted it. Naledi closed her eyes, the truth washing over her like a cold wave. Her father hadn't left her behind. Her family had. But he had also left her something else. Power. Protection. Future. And they had no idea she'd just found it. Naledi sat on the bed holding the deed, her heart pounding as piece after piece of the puzzle clicked into place. The more she thought about the last 24 hours, the clearer everything became. Tarek's shouting, Kessia's fake tears, the disrespect story, the grounding, the way they kept her inside the house like a child. None of it was about respect. None of it was about an apology. It was all about the land. Suddenly, every strange moment from the past week made sense, like someone had just switched on a light in a dark room. She remembered how Kessia had been talking non-stop about her dream project. a high-end fashion boutique in Kampala, a place where she could finally live like the woman she deserved to be. She remembered how Tarek kept dropping hints about family assets, and how everyone should contribute equally. At the time, Naledi thought he meant chores or bills. Now she realized they were preparing her mind, slowly, softly, pushing her toward something she didn't understand yet. They wanted her signature, and the only way to control her was to break her. They wanted her tired, guilty, scared, obedient. A simple apologize or else was just the beginning. The grounding was a trick, a way to keep her under their roof and under their rules until she gave in. Naledi could almost hear Kessia's voice in her head now, sugary and manipulative. If you sign the papers, Tarek will stop being upset. Or family. We should share everything. Or, funny word, because they never shared anything with her. Tarek got the best food. Kessia got the best treatment. Even strangers got more kindness than Naledi ever did. And now they wanted the one thing her father had chosen to give only her. She imagined them sitting together, planning. Kessia flipping her braids proudly, saying, "Once she signs, we can sell the land immediately." Tarek nodding, ready to pressure Naledi with guilt. They probably thought she was weak. They probably thought she'd do anything just to be accepted, just to avoid conflict. But finding that document changed everything. Naledi felt something burning inside her. Not anger this time, but clarity. Strength. The kind her father always said she had. They thought they could corner her. They thought they could control her. They thought she would fold like paper. But they forgot something important. Naledi wasn't the extra child anymore. She was the owner of land worth over $1 million. And she wasn't about to let anyone steal her future. Dinner that night felt like sitting on a quiet landmine. Naledi could feel the tension even before she walked into the dining room. Tarek sat at the head of the table, stiff and serious, like a judge waiting to deliver a sentence. Kessia sat beside him, wearing a fake sweet smile that didn't reach her eyes. The moment Naledi pulled out her chair, Tarek cleared his throat loudly. "So," he said, not even looking at her, "are you ready to apologize to my wife?" There it was again, the demand, the control. Naledi didn't flinch this time. "Tarek," she said calmly, "I didn't disrespect anyone." Kessia slammed her fork down dramatically. "See, this is what I mean. She still has attitude." Naledi watched her brother's jaw tighten. He was about to explode, again. But instead of raising her voice or falling apart, Naledi reached into the folder she had tucked under her arm. "I actually found something today," she said softly. "Something Dad left behind." Both heads snapped toward her. Kessia's smile vanished. Naledi laid the document on the table like a quiet bomb. "This," she continued, "is the property deed. The land in Jinja." For a moment the whole room froze. Kessia picked up her glass of juice to distract herself, but when her eyes landed on Naledi's name printed clearly on the deed, she choked so hard the drink sprayed across the table. She grabbed her napkin, coughing, eyes wide with panic. Tarek's face drained of color. His fork slipped from his hand and clattered onto the plate. What are you talking about?" he stuttered. Naledi pushed the paper closer to him. "Dad left the land to me. Only me. He signed it himself." Tarek's eyes darted between the document and Kessia, like he was silently asking her what to do now that their secret was out. But Kessia was frozen, her mouth hanging open, her face turning red. Naledi leaned back in her chair, calm in a way she had never been before. "So before you ask for an apology again," she said, her voice steady, "maybe explain why you two have been pressuring me, why you grounded me, why you started that whole lie." Silence. Heavy. Embarrassing. Suppose. Tarek tried to speak, but no words came out. His plan, the manipulation, the shouting, the guilt, had shattered right in front of him. For the first time in her life, Naledi watched her brother sit there completely powerless. And she realized something beautiful. The truth had finally chosen her. And this time it spoke louder than their lies. Naledi sat back in her chair, the deed still lying on the table, her eyes fixed on Tarek and Kessia. The room was thick with tension, and for the first time she felt completely in control of the moment. She had spent years feeling small, silenced, powerless. But not anymore. "Tarek," she began, her voice calm but firm. "You've been yelling, demanding, and grounding me as if I'm a child. But there's something you need to understand." Kessia tilted her head, trying to look smug, but Naledi didn't let her interrupt. "The house you're sitting in, the one you've been acting like you own, was renovated using my father's savings. Every brick, every paint stroke, every improvement came from what he left behind for me. Legally, it belongs to me. Not you. Not Kessia." Tarek's face turned red. "Naledi, you're being ungrateful. We've raised you, given you a roof over your head." Naledi shook her head slowly, letting the words sink in. "No, Tarek. You've been living in my father's estate, in the home he made for his family. And all these years, you've tried to make me feel like an outsider in my own home." Kessia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, but Naledi continued, steady and calm, as if each word was a sword cutting through the lies. "I didn't come home for a fight. I didn't come home to be yelled at or cornered. But I will not let anyone, not even my brother, take what is mine by right. So here's what's going to happen." She reached for her phone and dialed quickly. Tarek's jaw tightened as he watched. "This conversation is over. My lawyer is on the way, and I'm serving notice. If I'm grounded, you're evicted. Simple as that." The room went completely silent. Kessia's smug expression had vanished, replaced by panic. Tarek sputtered, trying to speak, but the words got caught in his throat. He couldn't argue against the law. He couldn't argue against the deed signed by their father. Naledi took a deep breath, her heart steady for the first time in years. She had been pushed around, ignored, blamed, and silenced. But now, with the truth and the law on her side, she didn't need to fight with her voice raised. She only needed to speak clearly, and act decisively. As she stood up, the weight of fear lifted off her shoulders. She was no longer the powerless sister. She was Naledi, daughter, owner, and finally in control of her own life. And Tarek and Kessia, they were about to learn just how serious she could be. The next morning, Naledi felt a strange calm as she held the eviction notice in her hands. 30 days. That was all she was giving them. 30 days to pack up their bags, find another place, and leave the house she had inherited from her father. She had rehearsed it in her head for hours, but now, standing in the living room with Tarek and Kessia staring at her, everything felt sharper, louder, real. "Tarek, Kessia," she said, her voice steady, "this is your official eviction notice. You have 30 days to leave the house. After that, I will have no choice but to take legal action." Kessia's face turned pale instantly. "You can't. This is my home. My husband's home," she shrieked, throwing her hands up. Her voice cracked like she was on the edge of hysteria. Tarek stepped forward, his expression desperate. "Naledi, please, we can work this out. You don't have to do this. We're family." Naledi shook her head slowly. "Family doesn't treat you like a criminal. Family doesn't lie about you, ground you for no reason, or try to steal your inheritance. Family protects you. And this house, this estate, it's mine by law and by right, and I will protect it." Her words hung in the air, heavy and final. That's when the neighbors started noticing. Some had come to watch after hearing the shouting the night before. One of them pulled out a phone and started recording. Within minutes, people from the street gathered, murmuring, whispering, and filming. Social media blew up with live clips. Young woman serves eviction notice to greedy brother and wife. Girl reclaims her family home. Kessia's screaming grew louder as she flailed, pointing at the papers. "You'll regret this. You're cruel. How could you do this to us?" Tarek tried again, stepping closer, but Naledi didn't flinch. She calmly held up the eviction notice. 30 days. That's all you get. After that, I walk away for good." And that's exactly what she did. She picked up her bag, slung it over her shoulder, and walked through the front door. The sun hit her face, warm and bright, like it was welcoming her into a new life. Behind her, Tarek and Kessia shouted, pleaded, and argued, but she didn't look back. For the first time in her life, Naledi felt the weight lift from her shoulders. She was finally free from the lies, the manipulation, the endless pain of being treated like she didn't belong. As she walked down the street, phone cameras flashing from every angle, Naledi felt a surge of pride and relief. She had taken back her life, her home, and her power. And nothing, not Tariq, not Kessia, not anyone, could ever take that away. A few months after reclaiming her father's estate, Naledi stood at the edge of her land in Jinja, the sun shining over the green fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. She had made a decision, one that would change not just her life, but the lives of so many others. She sold a portion of the land to a developer for $800,000. The offer was generous, more than she had ever imagined. But she didn't just pocket the money. She had a plan. With the rest of the land, she would build something far more valuable than any luxury house or boutique, a youth tech center for the children in her village, a place where kids could learn coding, robotics, and skills to change their futures. As the construction began, word of Naledi's story started spreading. Neighbors who had once whispered about her disrespect were now telling everyone about her courage, her determination, her refusal to be silenced. Journalists from Kampala came, asking her to sit for interviews. Photos of her walking across the land, holding the deed, smiling proudly, were shared across social media. Girl called disrespectful, builds tech hub for village children, read one headline. Another said, Naledi turns family betrayal into million-dollar vision. People everywhere were inspired. Young girls in Accra, Nairobi, and Lagos shared her story, commenting how she gave them hope, how she showed that even when the people closest to you fail, you can still rise. For Naledi, the money was only a tool. The real reward was seeing children's eyes light up as they learned how to code, how to build robots, how to imagine a future bigger than the limits around them. Every tablet she bought, every desk she set up, every computer she installed reminded her why she had fought so hard. She often walked alone across the land at sunset, thinking of her father's words. "You're stronger than you know." She finally understood. Strength wasn't just surviving the lies, the shouting, or the betrayal. Strength was turning pain into purpose, anger into action. And as she watched the first group of children enter the tech center, laughing and curious, Naledi smiled. She had been called disrespectful and troublesome for years. But now, in every smile and every lesson, she realized that she was unstoppable. Naledi had not only reclaimed her family's legacy, she had transformed it. Her million-dollar rise wasn't about money. It was about creating something that could never be taken from her. Hope, opportunity, and a future she could be proud of. A few weeks after the eviction, Naledi's phone rang. The name on the screen made her pause. Tariq. Her first instinct was to ignore it. She had heard his voice shouting, seen his face full of anger and betrayal, and remembered every hurtful word. But something told her to answer. "Tariq," she said cautiously, keeping her voice calm. "Naledi, please," he began, his voice breaking. I made a mistake. Family should stay together. I shouldn't have let things get this far. Can we talk?" Naledi listened quietly, the familiar ache rising in her chest. For years, he had chosen lies over her, Kessia over her, anger over understanding. And now, after everything, he was calling, not to apologize fully, not to fix the years of pain, but asking for her forgiveness and a chance to come back. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Tariq," she said slowly, each word clear, firm. "Family stays together when they don't treat you like an enemy. When they don't lie about you, when they don't try to take what belongs to you, when they don't make you feel small in your own home." There was silence on the other end. She could hear him swallowing hard, trying to find words. But there were none that could erase the past. And she realized in that moment she didn't need to fix him. She didn't need his approval. "I've chosen my peace, Tariq," she continued softly. "And I'm not willing to trade it for someone else's regret. I hope one day you understand that." She hung up before he could respond. The phone felt light in her hand, as if a weight she had carried for years had finally lifted. Naledi walked to the balcony, feeling the evening breeze on her face, watching the city lights twinkle below. For the first time in a long time she smiled freely. The anger, the betrayal, the shouting, it was all behind her now. She had her home, her land, her future. Most importantly, she had her peace. And nothing, not even her brother's regret, could take that away. Naledi closed her eyes and whispered to herself, proud and free, "This is my life, my peace, my victory."